Hi, I'm Sherry Damaris, and welcome to Macro Magic. And today I have with me Steve Acuff. This is probably the third show we've had with Steve. I keep bringing him back on only because I hear from so many people how they enjoy his lectures and his book, and he's becoming world famous in the world of macrobiotics. So welcome, Steve.
Thank you.
So nice to have you zooming in today from Sweden. Do you want to just share with us any updates of things that you've been working on in the field of macrobiotics? I know I just read the recent article you did with James Templeton about how he helped cure himself from melanoma through using macrobiotics, and he spoke so highly of you.
Yes, I had a great interview with James Templeton, the owner of Unikey Solutions, which is a great company for all kinds of natural products for improving health. And he himself made the greatest success there of curing himself from cancer and writing the book, I Used to Have Cancer. So, he's just living proof that the power of food is what you need to recover. And, we need conventional medicine for emergencies, but when it comes to degenerative illness, the subject you and I are talking about today is what really makes the difference. It's like, eating the food that will make your body work the way it's supposed to for self-healing.
And did you want to go over a little bit more about what types of foods? Because I know vegan is really popular right now. I've had a lot of vegan chefs on the show. And a lot of people just reading up on vitamins, what kind of vitamins to take. But I think a lot of people in the public are unclear as to what kinds of foods or what healing dishes really make a difference in the macrobiotic diet in terms of healing cancer.
Yeah, the basis of macrobiotics is whole natural foods, and this is fiber-rich food, so it's carbohydrate, which in the last years has got a bad name. Carbs, low carb is good, high carb is bad. But carbohydrates is where you find the fiber, which is what makes our gut bacteria thrive. So, this is really good for gut bacteria, and so that means that it's good for your health. They decide, the gut bacteria decide how healthy you'll be. So it's whole grains, which for me is brown rice a lot. I also eat black rice and red rice, but also quinoa, oats, other whole grains. I do soak the grains, which is a bit different than some people do it because it just makes them more easily digestible. And then especially beans, lentils, and chickpeas, in other words, legumes, for protein, because if you want to use food to improve your health or even to beat an illness, you really have to get away from animal protein. And whether you become a strict vegan is a personal choice, but you have to have the emphasis on plant-based protein, and that means the lentils and chickpeas and beans, black beans, white beans, and learning how to cook beans is one of the really important issues there because if you get gas from them, you won't eat them no matter how good they are for you. So those are two really big issues. Then, of course, vegetables. And they've done studies on this. We know that green leafy vegetables are that just calorie for calorie, the most healing food you can have. Kale, but also broccoli, is part of that. Green leafy vegetables just give the body everything it needs, and you can take that, to slightly steamed salads if it's things like some of these bitter tasting lettuce, like not just the normal kind of watery lettuce, but something that's got some taste to it. This is really mineral rich food. And my experience has been that most people have a mineral deficiency. Mm-hmm. So plenty of vegetables, and the macrobiotic way is to exclude certain vegetables, such as the nightshades, because they inflame the body. And inflammation is the big issue. And a sick body is an inflamed body. And there's no food that is more anti-inflammatory or as anti-inflammatory as the macrobiotic food program. So those are kind of the major issues there. And then smaller amounts of seaweed, which gives you a lot of alkalinity, a lot of minerals, and also for the amount of calories you eat, uh, the seaweed is right up there with the green leafy vegetables, really delivering a lot of nutrition. Then seeds and nuts. Seeds and nuts are very, very important. And all of the studies that you, let's say the last 10, 15 years is showing that seeds and nuts are a very important part of eating for good health. And then, of course, again, it's good to soak some of them because they do contain anti-nutrients. So again, learning how to cook, learning how to prepare food, these are such crucial matters if you're going to make success of any kind of alternative food program, and especially macrobiotic food, which does recommend food that is high in fiber, but also contains anti-nutrients.
Yeah, and I love that. We had Colin Campbell on the show talking about protein and how the myth of protein carried on for, many, many years of, you can only get your protein from animal food. And they actually find that plant-based protein is much easier to digest, much better for you without the fat and the high cholesterol. And if you, like you said, if you want to do a percentage of animal food, that's fine, but make sure that you don't go over a huge amount of percentage. And that's when your health starts to really give you problems. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. And also with the sea vegetables, we had Neil Barnard on recently talking about the iodine in sea vegetables and how important that is for women's thyroid. And I think when it comes down to it, most of the time, the soil is not as rich as it used to be in our gardens and at our farms. And so we're not getting the minerals we need. And that's the big factor, in a macrobiotic diet. To add more minerals overall is so important.
That's right, and especially iodine. Almost everyone has an iodine deficiency. That's why they added salt, but you can't eat enough salt to cover your needs. You can get enough to prevent this thing growing in your throat, a goiter, but not having a goiter doesn't mean you've got enough iodine. And interestingly, very common cancers, breast cancer and prostate cancers, are closely related to an iodine deficiency. And it's one of the ways we can explain why the Japanese have 10 times less breast cancer and prostate cancer compared to Westerners. They eat seaweed regularly, and so the iodine is such a crucial factor for many things. Of course, you mentioned the thyroid, which is the most obvious, and the cancer rates are going up. So more people should investigate seaweed. One of the problems people have is they think it's all polluted because they think everything comes from Japan, and now that's all polluted because of Fukushima. But if you look, you'll find that this is not true. First of all, there are seaweeds that come from the U.S., like the Seaweed Man in New England, but also other places, and even Japanese seaweeds are not contaminated unless there's been something that's happened. They're all monitored very closely, and I still eat them. But you really need to think about. It's like a revolution in thinking about food in our time because we're faced with some very big challenges that didn't exist before.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned those in, we discussed, some questions ahead of time, and you had mentioned them on your list. How can people stay focused? Because you're pulled in so many thousands of different directions, by reading blogs and on social media about certain therapies, and to eat grain, to not eat grain, and to eat more animal food and not eat more animal food. And people get really confused because they're looking for, the best diet for themselves. And yet there's so much out there to weed through to try to understand.
Yes, it is a real jungle out there and very confusing. And I've mentioned that in my book about how difficult it is to find your way through the fog. And the best is to check it all out and then to try something out. If you try it out, you start feeling the effects, and that's why it's good to really go for it. If you do kind of a half mixed kind of thing and just checking a few things out, you don't really feel that power change that comes. Like when I did my food switch over 50 years ago, I just all at once just changed everything, and the effect was amazing. I mean, my body told me, my innate inner feeling told me that this is good for you. So out of an experiment has become a whole lifetime of eating well and thinking about health. So I didn't have to think so much analytically about what would be right, because I gave it a try and just immediately felt the difference. So I would think the best way to do it is, go for it as much as possible. Make a radical change, like throw out all the sugar, get rid of all the processed food, everything that will kind of dull your sensitivity and your intuition. And you'll be amazed, the way you feel. You sleep less, you're more energized, and everything tells you this is something to check out more in depth. That's why I would recommend doing the macrobiotic program, because I've watched hundreds, probably thousands of people over the years improve their health with this. So why should people have to make all the mistakes that I made? They can inform themselves about what I've done, what you have done, that we who've had this experience, we can share this experience with people so that they don't make those mistakes and they'll go much faster forward.
Yeah, and you need a lot of patience, because your taste buds actually change over the years. Like I noticed when I was teaching children in school, and just giving them nice macrobiotic sweeteners like barley malt, rice syrup, and maple syrup, they didn't think it was sweet enough. But as they got accustomed to not eating so much sugar, their taste buds actually changed and became more sensitized. So they couldn't eat something that was super sweet with sugar after a while. It started to bother them. So I think it's important to, like you said, give it some time. Neil Barnard said, 1 month is a good amount of time to see if that really changes. We're going to take a commercial break, and Steve, when we come back, we're going to hear more about your long life practice of macrobiotics and how you're healing so many people across the world.
Our new home. Lots of windows, great light.
But the birds. They're back.
Yes, I hear them.
Uh-oh. Why are these birds so angry?
At least Geico makes bundling our home and car insurance easy.
We save a lot.
I'm going. Ah!
Hurry!
I know.
For bundling made easy, go to geico.com.
Welcome. I'm Barry Lefkowitz. I'm your host on New Perspectives on RVN TV. I come to you each week with issues and topics that you will generally find in the news. And if you're looking to be able to get caught up and know what's going on, then New Perspectives is the show for you on RVN TV. Look forward to having you.
Your mom's gotta go.
Oh, she's family.
Like daughter, like mother.
Well, what is that supposed to mean?
She's using my Old Spice moisturizer with shea butter for impossibly smooth skin, and she's wearing my robe. It's bad enough you use up all my body wash, and now her.
We're out. Nice robe.
Thanks, Mom. Thank you. You got good taste. That's your mama.
Hi, I'm Angelo Valletta, President and CEO of Ben Franklin Technology Partners of Northeast PA and host of Innovation Wins. Innovation Wins gives you a sneak peek at some of the most exciting, game-changing technological innovations being developed right now by Ben Franklin's brilliant and creative entrepreneurs that will not only inspire, but intrigue and inform you. So please, join me for Innovation Wins on RVN TV on Saturdays and Sundays at 3 p.m. and Tuesdays at noon.
Welcome back. I'm Sherry Damaris, and I'm with Steve Acuff. We're zooming him in from Sweden. And I can't believe, Steve, your book is translated into German and Swedish and English, right? And lately it's been rocking off the shelves, they say. A lot of people are purchasing it, I think, as they're looking for more alternative solutions to our health crisis. And it's a wonderful book. I've read it. And you have so many great tips for how to make that change to a macrobiotic diet. And we wanted to talk a little bit about energy of food, how macrobiotics looks at the energy of food, which is different than looking at nutritional labels or just looking at calories.
Yeah, that's what really fascinated me in my first experience as a young man, 25 years old, and just interested and curious about life. Was when I began experimenting with the foods. I found that these concepts from the East, which are yin and yang, or like the cooling or warming effects of food, the relaxing or the firming up, grounding of the body through the food, that I could really feel those energies when I began experimenting with foods. And, of course, this is a totally new field for me, and a unique way of looking at food instead of just looking at how much magnesium there's in something, or is it enzyme rich. I was looking at how it affects the body at this energetic level. That was really quite a revelation. And then moving on from there, I started going more into the orthomolecular phase there of using the understanding of nutrients, natural nutrients, but in higher amounts. So like having seaweed, for example, is almost like taking a mineral supplement. So when you find that people are deficient in minerals, that you advise them to take more seaweed, because instead of just being a part of the meal, you need to have more of that to balance a mineral deficiency. And so this was also interesting. Or vitamin D, for example. Understand that vitamin D deficiency is widespread, so that during the winter months, for those of us living in a normal climate, not a tropical climate with lots of sun, but more 4 seasons, that taking some vitamin D supplements will help you through the winter, because it's hard to get enough vitamin D through the food. There is some in mushrooms, but that's just not enough to carry you. So I started investigating that, and that gave me a lot more power to my macrobiotic counseling, because I was now using these extra nutrients, orthomolecular. And I would recommend anybody to check out a website by Dr. Andrew Saul. He's called the Vitamin Man. His website is called dryourself.com. dryourself.com. He has no advertising. He doesn't even advertise his own book. And he gives a lot of good information there, and you can really inform yourself about vitamin B12 and things that are important issues for people who are eating alternative food. I mean, it's actually something everyone needs to know about, because we're finding vitamin B12 deficiencies widespread today, not just in alternative circles. So it's just been a real non-ending course in food and health over the years, going from one thing to another, learning the importance of enzymes, about how all body functions are dependent on enzymes. Just for an example, microbes, the destruction of microbes is done by our white blood cells, and it's all an enzyme process. So wanting to make your body strong against microbes, then you You just be sure that you keep your enzyme levels up. So I still find it fascinating to continue learning things after all these years.
Yeah, Dr. Campbell had actually talked to me about how it's like an orchestra. You know, we think one little pill or whatever might make the difference, but your body, when it goes through a digestive process, it's a whole orchestra that looks like, you know, works the whole food. And that's why it's so important to understand where the vitamins and minerals are, and not eat a bunch of empty calories all the time.
That's right. And then when you get into detox, for example, you know, along the way, I learned more about how the body detoxes. And of course, we can think about there are different things you can do for detoxing, different things you can do like bentonite clay. But in the end, the real detox takes place naturally, and it's because the body has enough nutrients to carry out the detox process. So
Yeah.
it's just very simple stuff. You know, are you eating the foods that give you what you need to get rid of toxins? And in the old days, I used to think, well, after I've got rid of all the old stuff that I was eating before as toxic excess, now I'm eating really well. I don't need that so much anymore. But then I discovered that there's something called endotoxins, which are toxins created just from daily metabolism, just operating as a human being every day, so that our whole lives we need to have good detox function going. And it's just as important as bringing in the right nutrients that we need to be able to get rid of. Basically, it's like the exhaust from a motor running, when is what happens when we burn glucose, and we're trying to keep ourselves in balance. We have to get rid of the waste that comes from the burning.
Absolutely. Denny Waxman always used to say, it's not what you eat, it's what your body can't get rid of. And so,
exactly.
Yeah, if you're not able to clean up or discharge, or you're eating foods like tropical fruits and things that prevent that discharge, it stores it up, you know, as hard fatty fat in the organs, and then you end up with tumors and all sorts of problems. So yes, it's good to learn about discharge and just sleep. We're going to have a guest on our show soon, Katie Haley, talking about how important sleep is to let the body clean out and discharge.
Yeah, there's so many aspects to living a healthy lifestyle, and sleep is certainly one of them. The food is always where we put our focus in macrobiotics, especially because it's the most controversial. You know, no one would claim that lack of sleep is okay. And we would know that it's important. We know that physical exercise is important, that relaxation is important. But when you get to the subject of food, then suddenly everyone's got different ideas about it, and no one is going to agree with someone else. So this is where the real debate and the discussion really gets interesting. But certainly, it's good that you know, pointing out that you know, we're not food fixated, thinking that everything is just decided by the food, but rather it's just part of this whole healthy lifestyle.
And Steve, what are you doing now up in Sweden? I know that you're seeing people on Zoom for private appointments, and you've done some lectures with my Thursday night lecture series.
Yes.
Let us know what you're currently working on.
Yes, I've been doing a lot of Zoom activities because my old life of doing public lectures and public personal counseling, like sitting there talking to someone, has been pretty much stopped by this whole public health crisis that we're going through. And it really works well with the internet. The technology is so far today that when I talk to someone doing a personal counseling session with the camera quality, you know, I can look at their tongue and see all the little signs of imbalance here and there on the tongue or on the face. So there's a lot of information that comes across, but I'm able to you know, talk to the whole world. We just agree on a time that fits both time zones, and off it goes. And I'm now putting the finishing touches on my the German translation. I basically have the book that's available in English. I'm I'm done with the German translation, but then because of all these health issues that have come up in the last couple of years, I wanted to write something about that because it's something that interests everyone. I get questions about it almost daily. So I'm now taking some time to just write some additional information to inform people about, what I would say about that. And of course, they can always check out my website too. But I just am always busy doing things. It's such a great feeling to just always have a lot to do and never feeling like I'm slowing down because I have so much to do. And in life, you can choose, do you want to make a lot of money or do you want to help people? And very early, my choice was to help people and here I am now at the pensioner age, in my mid 70s, and I just look back on a very good life, a very useful life of helping people with food and the healthful lifestyle choices that have been able to help so many people to recover from their illnesses and what's kept me healthy. I feel so relaxed in a world that's very tense at the moment.
Yeah, and I applaud your work because, reading your latest article, especially from the author talking about curing his melanoma, that, those types of stories just hit home to the heart. And I think that's why you and I do this work. And you're such a bright light in the field of macrobiotics. How can people reach you on your website and purchase your book if they're interested?
Yes, just contact me through my website and I will respond immediately. I have found that this kind of book doesn't really appeal to the general public. The interest only comes when people have a bit of insight into what it's about. Every day new books about food and health come out and it just gets lost in the shuffle. But talking to you today and other possibilities gives people insight into this is something that's worth taking a closer look at. So people can go into my website, StephenAcuff.org, and then if they find that interesting, take one more step, contact me through the website, and I'll put them in touch with my friend who will send them the book.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Steve, for being on the show. We hope to have you, up again because your groupies keep calling me. So I so appreciate your time.
Always a pleasure.
Yes. So I'm Sherry Damaris, and I'd like to say goodbye on Macro Magic. Please visit us on our new website, macromagic.us.